Between the deep blue ocean and the Caribbean Sea, where the waves are all in motion, lies a pearl so there to me, from Quail to Little Mountain, from Venus to White Wall. Long ago a golden found mountain, once a diamond waterfall. Golden rock, I'll always miss you when I am far from thee. Never ever I'll forget you, wheresoever I may be.
This evening, the distinguished pleasure is mine to welcome our honorable guests, Island Governor Ms. Alida Francis, Island Commissioner Ms. Rishidine Yogam, Island Council Member Mr. Clyde Van Putten, Reverend Telford Matthew of the Methodist Church, our family and friends and well-wishers. Welcome. The purpose of this gathering is in commemoration of Sir Josser Daniel's life and times, in collaboration with the launch of the book that was co-authored by him, my grandfather, and his son, Mandinko B. Ives Daniel. This book is entitled The Life and Times of Sir Josser Daniel, subtitled Historical Events of Holland and America on Statia. At this point, I would like to introduce and turn over the mic to my big brother, Sir Michael D. Humphreys, who will lead us through this evening's program.
Good evening and welcome. I am Sir Michael D. Humphreys, a grandson of Sir Josser Mandinko. I would like to take this moment once again to warmly welcome with great honor Her Excellency Governor Alida Francis, the Executive Council, Ms. Rishidine Yogam, and Island Council members, also Mr. Clyde Van Putten, Honorable Clyde Van Putten. The St. Eustatius Historical Foundation and Board, the board and staff of the St. Eustatius Public Library of St. Eustatius. The Reverend Minister Matthew, who gracefully granted us permission to hold this ceremony on this premises of the Methodist Church. The Boys and Girls Brigade. The family of the late Sir Josser Daniel. Friends and distinguished guests. A special greeting goes out to Mr. and Mrs. Fred and Linda Ward, who was unable to be with us today due to unforeseen circumstances. We send our love and kindness regards to you both. At this time, the minister of this church, Reverend Matthew, will lead us in prayer to officially commence our program.
Let us go to God and pray. Let us pray. Dear God, our Father Almighty, we thank you for giving us the opportunity to gather here this evening for the launching of a book as a memorial and in honor of the late Sir Josser Daniel. Thank you for protecting those who traveled from far and providing the opportunity to meet, learn, and fellowship. As we begin this ceremony, we dedicate this time to you. We pray for the presenters, attendees, and supporters who have made this function possible. We ask it all in the name of Jesus Christ. I pray thanksgiving. Amen.
Thank you very much. I would like to call on my dear brother, Dr. Humphreys, to lead us into the anthem.
Between the deep blue ocean and the Caribbean Sea, where the waves are all in motion, lies a pearl so there to me, from Quail to Little Mountain, from Venus to White Wall. Long ago a golden found mountain, once a diamond waterfall. Golden rock, I'll always miss you when I am far from thee. Never ever I'll forget you, wheresoever I may be.
Thank you, Dr. Humphreys. Without further ado, I would like to introduce my uncle, Mr. Mandinko D. Daniel.
Good evening, everyone. Today we had to shift up the program a little bit quicker because our Executive Council and Island Council would have to be leaving at around 7 p.m. I was trying to do it on station time to begin at 7 to end at 8. But the governor caught us off guard, but I thank them so much for taking the time out to be here tonight, this evening, despite your schedule that was prior organized. So thank you so much. I know there will be more people that will be attending, but they are coming in on station time. And so we're going to get moving because we don't want to miss out. We don't want our esteemed people, the Executive and Island Council, to miss out on some of the items we have on the program for this afternoon. I'm going to run through a little bit quickly through some pointers about my father, Sir Josser Daniel. He was born to Antiguan parents. His mother was half Portuguese, and his father was of the Mandinko tribe. Some of you know me at a different name. I deliberately changed my name because I felt very proud of my heritage. So I am from the Mandinko people. Those were the slaves who were bred in Antigua and Bermuda during the times of slavery. So I chose to take that name for myself. A typical day of my father, Sir Josser Mandinko, he would reach home around 6 p.m. in the evening, but would wake up around midnight to water his plants at the back of his garden. Then around 4 a.m., I was the only one he could have gotten at that time to go to the farmland I forgot what the name of that place is. Is it Scotch Hooks? Yeah. He was allotted a piece of land by my mother's first cousin, Mr. Johannes Kruhat, who gave him that piece of land to multiply. And so every morning, every school day, around 4 p.m., you would hear this heavy voice waking me up at the outside of my bedroom window. And it was at those times, I was maybe only 8 years old, that I started driving. I'm just asking the governor not to send police officers to arrest me. I apologize. But he had me driving from about 8 years old. On weekends, it didn't finish there. On weekends, every Sunday, instead of taking time out to rest, he would embark on another mission. He would go to fishing. He used to use a net and go down the bay there by Gallows Bay in order to catch fish. Those were the parrot fish in those days. So every Sunday, I would meet him there and we would go fishing together. Now during the weeks, if you look at his truck, you would see a small little head peeping up from the door. That was usually me. Wherever he went, I followed. Every time you saw my father, he would sum me. I was an extreme daddy's boy. Up to today, we have 10 children, 8 boys, 2 girls. I never washed dishes, I never cleaned floors. But I spent my time with my father. I tiled my first apartment building at 8 years old. I can hang doors, I can run blocks. We did that together. So I was a complete daddy's boy who spent his time outside with his father. There was one time when we went to do a job together because I would meet him after school. Wherever he was, I would go to find him. And I saw this nice pump syrup tree, and I rented a pump. I picked so many pump syrups. And he had a fire helmet because he used to be in the boys' brigade, not the boys' brigade, the fire department. So I decided to fill up this helmet with the pump syrups just for me and my father to eat alone. But the thing came to the truck and I showed him how excited I was that I was saving these pump syrups for us to eat from. He almost brought tears to his eyes because I waited on him. They were Benjamins. And he almost tearfully told me it's a good thing that I waited for him. I would have ended up in the hospital. And you should have seen the nice loving look on his face, like he was so grateful that I decided to wait to eat with him. So that's the kind of relationship that we had. Now, I owe everything to my father. My career, the success I've had in my career. He used to put me to read on his stomach. He had this big stomach. He was a big guy when he was in his younger days, and I would read on his stomach. And he would insist that I read. And I became so good at reading in my English that Mr. Dennis Spratt, who was my teacher at one point, would separate the class in 2 halves and put me to correct 1 half whilst he corrected the other half at 8 years old. So my reading skills came from my father. I owe him that. Then we had the typing skills. He used to have a typewriter and this big heavy fingers. He had very big hands and big feet, size 14 shoe. His hand was so big he could squeeze the nest of jack spaniels and kill them without having to run from them. So he would have this big finger typing point for point, and I would be asking him to allow me to type, and he would say no. He insisted. And he paid for me to go to typing classes whereby I was surrounded with a bunch of girls and didn't feel too masculine at all. But I became the quickest typer in my class. And because of that, I can write books at lightning speed, mostly without even looking at the typewriter, thanks to my father. Then we had music. I wanted to play the guitar, but he insisted that I need to learn music properly. So yes, I can play the piano by notes. I even had a violin, clarinet. All these things I learned to play, but my dad pushed me to learn piano lessons, whereby I was able to make music professionally, write songs that reached very far. Even in Hollywood, we won Praise Fest. We won records with Sony Records, etc. And that was due to my father insisting that I learn to play the piano. So I owe everything to him, everything. And that's the reason why every book that you will see come out, you will see God first and my Father second. Then you see everyone else. But he has to be in every book for the rest of my life because he's the one responsible for taking me to where I am today. So my first book was written, I was born the same time with one of the Queen Beatrix's sons. And I was scheduled to meet with her. It was back in the 1980s. I think her bodyguard was Bujun at the time. He took the book. They went to Holland with her. And Queen Beatrix was madly beloved by Statia to such an extent that when she walks the road here, her bodyguards had to fight to not let her walk alone. The people of Statia love her, as I do very much. So that first book, my father spoke the words about the history. He insisted that if I'm going to meet the Queen, I have to write a book, a history book about the history of Statia to present to her. So he spoke the words for the most part. Certain things I would tell him, Daddy, you cannot speak like that in a book. So I would have to refine certain things. He was rough on the edges. But we did that book. It wasn't as formally done as it is now, but that was since the 1980s, and that was the aim. The first book that I ever wrote was on the admonishment of my father. Very first book. So all it comes out very late, which at this point, this book was written since the 1980s. So I took all of his information about the first Jews who came to the island, when the first salute was made, the history of even the 3-foot table that some of us may know about, all these stories that he knew I incorporated into this book. So I thought I didn't come here to make money on this book. I've had about 4 book launches already. I came here to give back. And I requested this church in particular because my father was very proud of this church. He was very fond of the Boys Brigade. And as a matter of fact, he fully admitted that the type of jobs he held down, such as with the police force, prison guard, fire department, was all contributing factors from the military-like training that he received in the Boys Brigade. He used to bring me here every All Year's night to welcome the New Year's. I think my sister Jen used to come with him at times too. And I often wondered why. And then he told me how serious he took the Boys Brigade. So it's an honor, and I'm very grateful that the Reverend allowed me to hold this ceremony here. It is a huge issue for me, as it is a huge issue for my father. So I knew that the governor and the crew needs to leave shortly. So I want to begin dedicating the books to the Island Council and the Executive Council before they leave to their next appointment. So I will take the top dog first. I will ask Governor Francis to kindly come and accept one of the books that was co-written betwixt myself and my father on behalf of Sir Josser. The second person that I would call here, I have them pre-written, would be the head of the Executive Council. Anyone can represent the Executive Council? Commissioner Leopold. I will now call upon, I think it will be Mr. Commissioner Van Putten, Councilman Van Putten, as a representative of the Island Council. Okay. The next person that I will call upon will be a representative of the St. Eustatius Historical Foundation. Do we have anyone here from the St. Eustatius Historical Foundation? Miss Spanner? I would be happy to have you here. Okay, Miss Spanner is a little bit too shy to come up at the moment. So I'm going to call upon the other person that we have a book dedicated to. It is a representative from the St. Eustatius Library. Miss, she asked for Miss Rosabel Blake to assist her in receiving the card. I would call upon the Department of Labor and Culture, but I think she's already here. Okay, the Commissioner can accept it on behalf of the Department of Labor and Culture. No clapping? This next book is dedicated to someone who has been very kind to me and allowing me to use the premises, was overly helpful in assisting. For the short time that I've known him, I consider him a friend already. And I'm very grateful for the leniency that he's granted for me to be holding this ceremony here on behalf of my father. I now call upon the Minister, Reverend Matthew. Thank you so much for everything you've done. Okay, we will now have a word from Her Excellency, Governor Francis.
Good afternoon, everyone, and especially to the offspring of the late Josser Daniel. As Mandinko speaks today in presenting this book in memory of his father, I too would like to share experiences that I've had with this wonderful man. In 1992, when I returned home to become the Director of Tourism, by that time, Mr. Daniel had taken on a whole different profession. He was known as a taxi driver, a tour guide, and fast became a local historian. I believe his bus was named Miss Tourism. He had a taxi that he called Miss Tourism. As I heard Mandinko pour his heart out, the love and the relationship he has had with his father, it is one that can make any one of us almost envious. It is not often so that you can have that type of intimate and deep relationship with a parent. It is very unique and very special, and I'm happy today to be part of this experience where he shares with us the richness and the fullness and the depth of that relationship. There are other experiences I share with Mr. Daniel. I wrote about this today on my social media page. And Jennifer, you were there at this occasion. The cover of this book represents a Lifetime Achievement Award Mr. Daniel received, I believe it was in 2005, from the Caribbean Tourism Organization, the CTO, at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in Manhattan. And you heard Sir Mega speak about Linda and Edward Ward. I was fortunate as the director to be there, and I met his friends, Linda and Edward Ward, who visited this island and became his friends. And Jennifer, you were there too, and he was nicely dressed in his tuxedo. I believe it was almost a year later that we stood together side by side along with teacher Debbie Clark when we were honored by Her Majesty Queen Beatrix during the time that Highland Gittins was the island governor of St. Eustatius. So I too do have some experiences with him, and what some of you may not know, we did not mention that so much here today, Mandinko, but he was a builder. Today we call them contractors. But my home where I'm living, my mother's home, was built by your father. So that you know that in sharing history. I want to say also something that was very unique and that he was very proud of. I could always see him in Fort Orania with his grandchildren, Delroy at times, Omega at times, and he had all these cards. We didn't have modern technology to make the nice promotional material that we can make today, but he handmade them on big boards. And at times when he would have a large group of tourists who would take a historical tour, he would have the young grandchildren hold up the boards to indicate what he wanted to share with them about our rich culture, history, and heritage. There was a story that he was very fond of. And that was the story at, I believe it was the Landia, where an American tourist went on a tour with him. And although he warned them not to go into the water, because it's known that on the Atlantic side, the undertow is very strong, it's not recommended for swimming. The gentleman still went into the water, and if it was not for the swift action of Mr. Daniel, he would have succumbed. And I believe, I hope you would have it in the book, he received a letter from the then at the time President Bill Clinton of the United States, because on his return to the USA, that tourist informed the president of the heroic act of Mr. Daniel, and he had this letter that he always took with him. So today I want to say, what a man, what a legacy. And as we sit here today to celebrate with you and to commemorate with you, you can be proud because you know what? Legacy is not something that dies. And if it's a good legacy, it lives on. And it lives on. When I read that he also had a background in music, now I understand why you, Sir Mega, it's in your DNA, and you too, Delroy. And so we see that his legacy lives on. You too, Miss Jennifer, you worked at the museum, the historical area for many years. So your father has left such a great legacy, and I'm happy to be part of this today. All I can say, what a man, what a legacy. May you too allow this legacy to live on through your children. On behalf of Statia government, congratulations on this achievement.
We'll now have a word by the Island Council member, Mr. Van Putten.
With protocols already established, this evening for me it is a very momentous and singular special occasion to be here at the Methodist Church, where we, whatever we want to call it, the book christening of Sir Josser Daniel. I don't think that there's any reason for me to repeat already what was said. But I know Mr. Daniel for a very, very long time. Growing up as a young man in the community, like was mentioned, this gentleman impacted the community in every aspect, in every facet of life. And I remember as a young boy, I spent a lot of years I had a shop in the south at the stars. and not so far away the Daniels live. And so we had that regular contact. Leaving this island and traveling abroad to further my education, the first job on my return to this country was a government spokesperson, the head of the Government Information Service. And because of his involvement in the life of tourism, there were many occasions where the government made use of him for different presentations when we had dignitaries coming to the island. And so we had a lot of conversation. He loved his politics as well. And in the early years when I worked with the Democratic Party, because that's where I started off, not as a candidate, but cheering their campaign, organizing their campaign, was one of their strong supporters then. And I spent a lot of time where he gave a lot of historic perspective as to how it started, where it was to talk about the people in Curacao and Aruba and St. Martin, and so I learned a lot from him. I am very happy that Mandinko took this initiative to document the legacy of his father and what he meant to him, because as a representative, as a son of the soil, I've been concerned for quite some time that we had some very, very interested individuals here on the island, who many have passed on to the life beyond, and they went with a lot of historic information. I remember in the earlier years, Miriam Schmidt, late Miriam Schmidt and the Slopes, they used to do some documentation. But I think after they would have departed, or maybe even got up in age, and then Miss Smith, she died sudden, that sort of disappeared. I remember my own godfather, the late Senator Kenneth Button. He too was a walking museum, a walking library. And I find it so beautiful that he would have departed the life. And a lot of the things that he knew, that it was not properly documented in a book. So Mandinko, I salute you for this bold initiative and actually documenting so that future generations will be able to know who Josser Daniel was, what he stood for, and the experiences that he would have had. And wrapping up, I want to call upon the Commission of Culture to do more to recognize these individuals. I remember in 1999, one of the motions that we passed then was to have a park of local heroes and heroines. That legislation is there. And it does not only honor politicians, but it honors individuals in the community who have left an indelible mark. And I want to call upon you, Madam Commissioner, in this term of office, to ensure that government set aside a piece of land in a very key area of the island, where a person like Josser Daniel, Christine Flanders, Miriam Schmidt, and many more, that we can have small statues of them, so that when visitors come to this country, and when our young people would grow up in the years to come, they would know who these individuals are, or were, and what the mentality of national development and national life in this country. I find it rather appointments that the family also elected to choose the Methodist Church, where the launching of this book would have taken place, because here's where he started. And indeed, he spoke and he held the Boys Brigade in high esteem up to his passing, because he always indicated to me the person that he was, that it had a lot to do with the training that he got here, but particularly in the Boys Brigade. And so I'm somewhat disappointed that I'm not seeing representatives of the Boys and Girls Brigade here this evening to participate in this very office occasion. But, however, we have good representation, and so I'm very happy for this. And so on behalf of the Island Council, the one that directly represents the people, on behalf of the people of this great island nation, we want to stand still and recognize the contribution that this legend, this icon, this hero would have done for this country. And so the children who are still around, the grandchildren, the great-grands, I think you can be proud of the legacy that your late father would have left behind. And it is properly said that behind every great man, good man, there's a great woman. And so Sister Marion Daniel, she also played a part. I spent a lot of time with her. We conversed on a lot of issues. Sometimes I reflect and smile and remember when their last son wanted to join the police force. They had concern because based on their belief and based on who he was, they had a lot of concern. And I remember everywhere one day I they told me, brother and sister Daniel is looking for me. Until we met up at the mall. And then they lectured me, really advised me to discourage him from not entering into that profession. So this lady was also very great lady, and she contributed significantly to the achievement of her husband. So once again, congratulations, and may God continue to bless his legacy and bless the family that he would have left behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Van Putten, for these solemn words, kind words. Before Ms. Commissioner Leda comes to the mic, I would like to enlighten you that we have some drinks and refreshments and snacks in the Elmer building, as well as other books that I have written, as well as those who would like to purchase personally a book for themselves, which we have some folks here who requested such. So I will bring to the mic Ms. Commissioner Leda.
Thank you very much. Good evening all. I did not have the honor in knowing Mr. Josser, Mr. Daniels. I always speak to Mr. Daniels, so that's how I learned about him, Mr. Daniels. And I always heard about the tourist guide. That's how I knew about him at that point in time, at my age, and how he knew Statia so well. He was like one of the best historians on Statia. Upon my return home from school, and when I heard of his passing later on, I was very sad. I was like, we lost a stalwart, we lost history, and it was never documented. And like Councilman Putten said, I always wished, it was always one of my dreams, my passion back then. I can't say I was not thinking of politics because I was already contacted by Mr. Van Putten. He was trying to get me into the politics, but it was always a passion of mine to see that this can be documented somewhere. Now, today I'm the Commissioner of Culture, so I can actually try to bring that passion, that dream to reality. Mr. Councilman Van Putten, I hear you about the land, where we can recognize our heroes. I believe in that too. The Madam Theatre is now will be repaired under the Lakewood Hill within the purpose that we will also be recognizing all of our heroes. But we will go a step further and also look towards a plot of land where we can have these icons, because we do believe that we need to also let the next generation know that Statia also has heroes. When I saw the invitation that came for this book, I was like, wow, couldn't be at a better time, because we're preparing for the 250th salute next year. So I was very happy to see that something like this has been documented, where we can actually look back, and I can read on a bicentennial, but I saw part of the book also has it in. And I'm glad that you also have one that I want to share my book with Department Head of Culture, because like I said, it's a next step that we can go now into the schools and tell our stories, and we have it documented. I think this is a very big milestone for City Statia. I asked the governor if there is one such like this on the island. I think this is the first. And to the family, well, they're written by stations, yeah. To the family, Daniel is a very big accomplishment. To Mr. Mandinko, I salute you, and I'm happy that you were able to give Statia this prize, this honor, that we can also have a bit of Mr. Daniel with us to stay with us forever. So thank you very much, and we will make good use of this information. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you for your words of kindness and elaboration, Governor Francis, Mr. Van Putten, Commissioner Leonard, and I know they have to leave shortly. They have another appointment, but if they have the time to pass through the Elmer building, they can take some refreshments, have a look at the other books. The rest of you are not allowed to leave. Stay put. I will turn the mic back over to Miss Humphreys.
I'm here representing the public library, and I just wanted to say a little bit of what I knew about Mr. Daniel. When we came to Statia 1968, he had a small little shop on the, which is now known as the Queen Beatrice Way, a very small little shop. It was a variety shop. Even though it was small, we lived just around the corner and was always happy to go there. But one of the things, my mother was very good friends with the family, and some of the time she would go and help Sister Daniel do some domestic work and stuff and things like that. And I was fortunate to tag along with her. But some of the time when she went to the shop, I was also fortunate to go there and was always asking questions. And hearing Brother Daniel's stories are one of the things that I caught me on to really love to tell stories. Sister Daniel as well. If you would ask me, she was one of the great storytellers in church. She told a story like no one else. I mean, I'm following close behind now, but if you ask me, she did an awesome job. But Brother Daniel was one, and when I started to work at the public library, he would always pop in with an entourage of folks behind him. Some of the time it was merely to use the bathroom, or just to show the library and see who at the library knew something about the island. And because I love history, so I was the one who kind of pick up the slack and continue the conversation about the things I knew at my time. Of course, I could really talk about my time. And of course, what you read in books. And over the years, Brother Daniel became very well known to me. When I needed something, some of the time I would go and ask Jennifer, can I get a number from your father, or where can I find him? Because back in the days, the library held very huge things for Black History Month, or just before we were talking about Black History Month. We had our book weeks, our different activities that we would have our local people feature. And I was fortunate. I think I did the first one before he passed away. And the second one that was a little bit more elaborate was, I think, done after his passing. And I still have the material in the library, because some of the time we keep that material, so when students come and they ask about our local people, we can give them the material. And it was some of the things was by interviews. I sat with them, talked with them, hear their views and stuff and things like that. But Brother Daniel was always one of the men who had a sense of reasoning for me. I remember there was an incident one time at church, and he was the only person who said, "Brethren, we need to now stop and pray, because this is not what God wants." And I never forgot it. And of course, I'm very happy that at least we have something down the library. When people come, we can show them a book. Because lots of times, about 2 weeks ago, somewhere out there, someone came and asked about stuff about Statia. I'm like, well, nobody writes. And I can't give it to you, nobody writes it. So we're happy that when I heard about it first, I said, this is the second one, where's the first? Because I'm like, we don't have the first. But now I understand the reason of they having this version, and we're grateful. And on behalf of the library board and all of us, this would be well documented. And of course, we need to have more than one, so that we can put one in reference and keep one for the public. So thank you again on behalf of all of us at the Public Library.
Thank you. I will now read a message from Linda Ward to the Daniel family, dated July 12, 2025. My dear friends, I would like to tell you how I came to know and love the Daniel family. My husband Fred and I spent more than 20 winters sailing in the Caribbean waters. Although I have never considered myself a competent sailor, I loved the adventure and trusted my husband, the captain of our vessel. We had many extraordinary experiences, but the most memorable one happened when we sailed to Statia. After we arrived in the harbor, we inquired about hiring a guide to show us the island, and we were told that Mr. Daniel was the best. Early the following morning, we met our guide on the dock in the bay, along with another American couple. We enjoyed several hours driving around the island, stopping at various points of interest where we heard Mr. Daniel tell us about the island's history and some of his own stories. In the middle of the afternoon, we ended the tour at Fort Daniel. It was a warm day, and Mr. Daniel told us to sit in the shade while he retrieved something from his van. We did not expect him to return with 2 large wooden display cases that held photographs and drawings depicting the early history of Statia and the United States. He told us about the historic first salute and why in 1776 it was significant for both Statia and the newly formed United States. We were all impressed with the depth of Mr. Daniel's knowledge and his passion for his beloved island. Later in the day, after we had returned to our boat, my husband remarked that he knew what I was thinking. He said, I wanted to arrange for Mr. Daniel to visit America. My husband was right, because that is exactly what I had been thinking about most of the afternoon. Later that year, in early November, we welcomed Josser and Marion Daniel at an airport in New Jersey. We spent 10 days traveling with them in New York and Boston, although it was very cold, something that none of us enjoyed. We had a wonderful time getting to know one another. At the end of the visit, we sent 2 very tired people back to their home, but we knew they had enjoyed themselves as we had, and Josser's dream of visiting America had been fulfilled. In January, when we returned to our boat in St. Martin, I decided to send a letter to the Queen of the Netherlands to tell her about an extraordinary man, Josser Daniel, who in my opinion was a great ambassador for St. Eustatius and all of the Netherlands. You might not be surprised to know how difficult it is to obtain an address for a queen, but I am a determined person and I succeeded. It was with immense pleasure that I received a reply from the Queen through her office, and I was happy to think that I might have played a small role in making the government aware of Mr. Josser Daniel, an extraordinary citizen. Later, I was delighted to learn that he became Sir Josser Daniel, a well-deserved title. Following this honor, Josser was again honored, and he was chosen by a Caribbean tourism organization to represent St. Eustatius in New York City during Caribbean Week. I wish all of Josser's family and friends could have heard him give a speech in the ballroom of that famous Waldorf Astoria hotel, like it was something he did every day of his life. Josser looked regal in his black tuxedo, wearing his recognition medals, and Jennifer Daniel looking beautiful in her formal gown. I was excited for them and as proud of them as if they were my own relatives. It was an incredibly wonderful evening. There was a special feeling I had on the first day I met Josser. He reminded me of my own father, who was a little older, but both men were tall, handsome, soft-spoken, intelligent men who were devoted to their families. It did not surprise me when I learned that their birthdays were just one day apart, with Josser's on July 13th and David's, my father, on July 14th. I know if they could have met, they would have been friends. When people ask Fred and me what we love most about our travels through the Caribbean, it is easy for me to answer. It has always been the people. We visited many beautiful places and met people from all over the world, but the people we met on Statia touched us. I'm grateful that my husband and I had the good fortune to sail to Statia. Our first visit was enjoyable, but we never imagined that we would meet a gentleman who would affect our lives the way Josser did. I will always be grateful for knowing him, being inspired by him, and for having the opportunity to meet his wife, Mariam, and his wonderful family. I love being connected to Josser through his children and their families, and I thank them for their friendship. Today, on behalf of my family, I send all the Daniel family our love and best regards. Sincerely, Linda. I would like to thank everyone for coming this evening. On behalf of my family, we will now go over to the Alma building where you get refreshments and the rest of the books. Thank you all for coming. Have a good evening.